Hi, I'm Dr. Dennis Daman. Welcome to the Big Bang of Data Science. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to the first edition of the Big Bang of Data Science. Let's get started. All right, let me start first of all by introducing you to a terminology that everyone should be familiar with, and that is the meaning of product. Now, everyone has their own way of understanding product from a different perspective. However, the Big Bang of Data Science understand product completely in a different way. Let me give you an example. If I would have to ask you if there is a student who would like to join or to enroll in a certain university, it doesn't happen just like that. Basically, the student will first of all go through different steps in order at the end to become a university student. So basically, they will ask themselves maybe, what is my league? In other words, what kind of institution I'm looking for, a kind of a rigid requirements, maybe soft requirements, and then start to actually examine what's in their hand. So they will start to look at the financial arrangement, maybe the requirement for that institution, and some other things, right? These are a kind of the actual assets that the student have in hand. Next, the student obviously is going to actually put all of which in a kind of a box, so to speak, right? And process all these things that you have in hand. And finally, what you have as an outcome of that, you have a product. Let me give you one more example. Imagine a person would like to own a house, right? So once again, it doesn't just happen like that. Essentially, a person would going to ask themselves, what's my budget, right? And what's the market value, and what some other things, all of which is going to be the actual assets that the person has at hand. And then once again, it's going to process all of which to finally come out with the actual right decision to buy the right house, just fit those requirements. And that is actually a product. And the product here is a house owner. So we saw a product of a university student, a product of a house owner. That might be a little bit generic. Let me be much more technical. Imagine if you would have a company X, right? And they are interested to release a certain product, maybe a physical or a digital product. Once again, the team will come together to find out what are the requirements of the product, what are the arrangement of the product, and finally some other information, all of which will be what they have at hand. And then again, they will put that into a certain black box. And finally, here we go. We have a new product that is released to the market. I have given you these three different examples from two different perspectives, maybe one of a generic one is a technical one. And I want you to see a pattern here. The first thing I would like you to look at this stage, all right? The first stage where what you have at hand. I call this stage as, imagine it as the input. This is where the stage you collect everything you have at hand. Now, in the second stage is the process stage. Once again, in this stage, it's obvious that you are actually processing what you have had in hand, regardless on the kind of product we're looking at. And the final stage is going to be actually the outcome stage. So the outcome stage, either from a generic or maybe a technical perspective, it seems that these three actually blocks, so to speak, are the actual presentation on the meaning to define the meaning of a product. Now, what I want you to see here, there is a few terminology seems to have in common between these three examples. Now, in the first stage here, there was a need for somebody to become a university student. There is a need for somebody to own a house. There is a need for company X to release that product. In the second block here with the process, you will see the word of data. You start process these data to understand their structure, stream, and what's going on. And finally, it's the outcome something. And here, the common words that you see is actually the solution, right? Or the product, wherever you would like to go. So you could see here, I could use the terminology of need. It was the essential stage. Maybe I could also alternatively use the word of problem, so to speak. This is the first stage, which is actually presented as the input stage. And then we have this data here in the second block, which is actually in lines with the word of process. And finally, you have actually the solution that we are talking about, or the product. Now, how the Big Bang of data science perceive all of which to design the entire element of its component. Before I answer this question, let me just show you a quick graph represent this problem, as I have just said. So essentially, if you look at the screen, you will see that in the essential stage of input, regardless what the problem we're talking about, then you have the process, and finally you have the outcome. And now the question is, what can go wrong, or where can we go wrong? Well, if anything is missing here, the entire plan could really go wrong. Example, if you don't know how to define your need, or how to articulate your problem correctly, or to ask the right question, believe me, final product solution will be completely wrong. Next, if you have chosen to select wrong source of data, or to even measure something and collect data from that wrong measurement, things will not go right. So in other words, to say the product seems to be very much dependent on the previous two stages. To this end, I could say in the first stage here of defining the need and the problem in general, it relies on one word I could call research. So it is obvious that inside this block of research, when the student have to articulate the research question, have to define their league, when the house owner have to articulate the research question to ask, what's my budget? When the company X have to articulate the research question to say, what kind of product we're looking at? So all these actually detailed are looked at as one particular terminology, research. So we need to see how research is important to be understood from the start to the end. Now, in the second block of the process, as I said, I will keep the data as it is, but the important terminology in lines with the data, as the law of nature tells us, once you have data, you need to do analysis. So in other words to say, you must have the capacity to understand analysis from the start to the end. This is what I could say the entire idea of this graph that you see on the screen here, given the example of product perspective. Now, what we could conclude, we have research from start to the end, and then we have analysis, once again, from start to the end. Now, if we actually master these two steps, I can guarantee you that your product is going to be sound, well, and good. If any of the elements that are required inside the box of research or analysis has been done wrong, then your product will never see light of future. These two elements is the first focus of the Big Bang of data science. Now, as an outcome of this, the product you have in here, there is one only element missing. Let me say it in some other way. Imagine if you would have the past, which actually represent the information that you had at hand in the research step. And then you would have the present, which is represented in the process of the data and the final shape or the outcome of this product. What you see is missing here, and that is future. So what we really need here, we need a future element to be enhanced to the actual shape of that product. Well, if we add the future element to the actual presentation of that product, then you have an intelligent product. Ask the question, how can we actually integrate the current image of a past and present in this product to become intelligent by adding this future? Then we are looking at the third terminology, and that is prediction. Again, from the start to the end. So in prediction, to put it in a future terminology, it is an educated guess with a probable outcome from the future. Now, these two steps, technical terminology, I would say the outcome of these is going to be kind of an analytical model. And once this analytical model is ready, I can actually use it as an input to another kind of a process to have actually this prediction applied process. Then you have a predictive model. And once you have a predictive model, you could easily say that my product is an intelligent product. So in the Big Bang of Data Science first edition, first we're going to be looking at research from the start to the end, then analysis from the start to the end, and finally prediction from the start to the end. Good. Up to this point, I would say, let's say this model would have in any form you would like to see. right? Could be mathematical form, a few terminologies, whatsoever. But we need actually to use this model. The best way to think about it in a form maybe GUI. You have an interaction between a user, right? And this model. Another way maybe we could also embed of a device, right? And the device will be actually through its interface, gain an access to the model where the model is actually advising on the device motion. The question is now, how can we do that? And this is the fourth element of the Big Bang of data science, to understand how to code AI from the start again to the end. So in the fourth element, code AI from the start to the end, is going to be focus on turning that module into a sort of a GUI product where the user can interact with. And this GUI module is going to be actually in a form of maybe a desktop application. Well, it could have been actually mobile application, if you like, website application as well. But in this particular book here in Code AI, I am presenting actually the solution as a desktop application. In this first edition, we're going to stop here. So what do you expect from the Big Bang of data science? To conclude one more time, as the end, the first, I'm going to introduce you to research from the start to the end, and then analysis from the start to the end. The outcome of these two books is going to be an analytical model. This analytical model can be used then as an input to the third element of the Big Bang of data science, and that is a prediction from the start to the end. And the outcome of these three elements is going to be a predictive model that is a smart and intelligent, enhancing the three factor of past, present, and future. Now, as a courtesy factor that we're going to use this model for anything, I suggest in the fourth element in this first edition to use Code AI from the start to the end, and that is to actually turn that model into a sort of GUI. Now, in the second edition, this is where we're going to actually discuss in some other videos how we're going to actually turn or activate that model to become a kind of a device or intelligent device, so to speak, using an embedding system. But for now, I would like to say that the Big Bang of data science, simply, you are going actually to have a strong fundamental understanding on academia from abstract meaning, theoretical, and from academic perspective. And then I'm going to take you to the industria, where actually you're going to apply or implement those abstract or theoretical knowledge into a real life example problem or industrial problem. So the slogan you see on the screen here, it is not just only a slogan had been actually created for any marketing purpose, but believe me, it took me a really long time to put all these steps or materials together, orchestrate them in such a way to make sure that motion or path of this slogan is true from academia to industry. Well, but once again, I would ask the question, what is the competitive advantage of this book? What differs this book from other material? Now, let me give you an example. If you have a research, and then we have this data, and then we actually outcome product, right? Later on, we enhance the product to be intelligent. The idea now, most of the material speak especially about artificial intelligence, or they claim the fact that data is the most important element of a prediction. That is right in somewhat, but wrong in another way. Because I have seen the material, they always actually miss to speak about this point of research. They claim the important steps of cleaning the data, which is nothing wrong with that. It's true. You need to pre-process the data, of course, will help you to ensure the quality of the product. But the question is now, if your data is wrong from the very, very beginning, how can you expect your product will be right? Well, you could give me a data in any form from a very rigid and abstract perspective. I could apply the best tool of math or available tool of analysis to create that analytical model and clean the data. And then finally, I could create that product with an intelligent factor. And then you have a predictive model. That's true. But the question is, from the very beginning, what was missing? Actually, that's the question. Is this data that we're talking about is the right data or not? And who can guarantee that is actually research? So if you have a wrong foundation from the very beginning, then it can guarantee you a failure product no matter what kind of advanced tool you are using. Your product must be, or the data actually must be, based on the right research approach. So you could see here, I have presented this idea that when you have wrong research with the whatever analysis you do prediction, you will have a wrong product. This is a wrong research foundation. Do your analysis right, and then your prediction will be right. And here we go, you go right product. And that is what is the right research foundation. So to this end, the biggest competitive advantage of this book, looking from the research perspective from the start to the end, then analysis from the start to the end, prediction from start to the end, turning that in any way as a GUI or a device. And then here we go, you get the best guarantee of a good product somehow to say. Now, the last thing before I close on this section, who are the audience of this book? Well, I would say the first two books, research from the start to the end, analysis from the start to the end. It's meant for an audience of students, could be undergraduate, postgraduate, scholars, researchers, scientists, executives, managers, professionals of any background, a lay person with enthusiasm to actually make the right decision. And when it comes to the third product, prediction, and of course, following that could be the code AI, or in the next edition could be working on embedding systems. That could be again for maybe students as undergraduate, postgraduate from specific college background, especially when they have a technical background, maybe in coding and maybe in mathematics, etc. It could also be for scholars, again from professions that are close to IT or mathematics, researchers as well, or scientists. But I would say for executives or professionals from various backgrounds, that does not limit them from actually enhancing their skills and learning a new material. Even if you are a lay person learning at the moment and looking and watching these materials to actually learn a new skills, this could be again for you. So the final words, the Big Bang of Data Science is made actually, or created, crafted for anyone who is interested to learn from academia to industry. So from here, you could start now looking and explore the introductory on the first 4 books available materials. This is going to be our first edition. In the second edition also, I will be sharing the next material that shows you what is the vision for the Big Bang of Data Science in their second edition release. I hope by now that every element in the Big Bang of Data Science in its first edition is quite clear to you. Take your time to walk through the element one more time and make sure to align that with your endeavor. Make sure to check the project website for further details in its documentation. If you have any question, please don't hesitate to let me know. I look forward to your participating in this program. Until then, thank you very much. Cheers.